Jiseul, a 2012 film by the Korean director Muel. Its name means potato, and it's one of the most quietly devastating war films ever made. To understand it, you first have to understand a piece of history that Korea spent 50 years trying to forget. This is Jeju Island, off Korea's southern coast. Today, it's a tropical honeymoon destination, but in 1948, roughly 1 in 10 of the people living here were killed, and for half a century, simply talking about it could get you arrested. Jiseul was made by Muel, a director born on Jeju, on a budget of about $190,000. He shot it entirely in black and white and cast non-professional actors from the island, people like Lee Kyung-jun, Yang Jung-won, and Oh Young-sun, speaking their own local dialect. And notice, there's no star, no single lead. Everyone shares the frame equally, which turns out to be the whole point. In 2013, it became the first Korean film to win the Grand Jury Prize for World Cinema at the Sundance Film Festival. But the film barely explains its own history, so let's give it the context it leaves out. Muel structured Jiseul like a traditional Korean ancestral rite, a ceremony for the dead, in 4 parts. I'm going to walk you through it the same way. The first part is Sinwi, inviting the spirits. We begin by calling the story back. After Japan's 35 years of colonial rule ended in 1945, Korea was split in two at the 38th parallel. The Soviets backed the North. The United States military governed the South, including Jeju, and as the Cold War set in, anything that looked like leftist resistance was treated as a threat. The spark came on March 1st, 1947. Police fired on a crowd that had gathered to mark the anniversary of Korea's 1919 independence movement against Japan. 6 people were killed. Arrests and torture followed. Then, on April 3rd, 1948, islanders led by South Korean Labor Party rose up. They were protesting police repression, and they were protesting a US-backed election scheduled for that May, an election that would create a separate southern government and make Korea's division permanent. This uprising is the event the film is named after, 4-3. The second part of the rite is Sinmyo, where the spirits come to dwell. This is where the dead come from. The government's response was annihilation. Starting in the late 1948, anyone found more than a few kilometers inland from the coast could be branded a rebel and shot on sight. Entire villages were burned, and the killing spared no one, not women, not children, not the elderly. And it's exactly this order that sends the villagers in Jiseul fleeing into the mountains to hide. Between 1948 and 1954, an estimated 25,000 to 30,000 people were killed. That's about a tenth of the island's entire population. Around 90% of them died at the hands of soldiers and police, and 2/3 of Jeju's villages were destroyed. Every dot on this screen is 1% of the island. The ember row is what was lost, which is the last row. The third part of the rite is umbok, sharing the ritual food. And this is where the film finally meets the history, because Jiseul doesn't show us the battle, it shows us the people. The film follows a true story, which is a group of ordinary villagers who hid in a cave for 60 days to escape the soldiers hunting them. They argue, they joke, they worry about the pigs they left at home. They comfort each other in the dark. There are no heroes here, and no big speeches, and that's precisely what makes the violence. When it finally arrives, it's so unbearable to watch. And here's where the title lands. In the cave, the survivors stay alive on potatoes, Jiseul, left behind by people who had already been killed. The humblest possible food becomes the thread connecting the living to the dead. The ones who are gone, still feeding, the ones who are still breathing in the dark. This is the choice I find most striking in the film. Muel splits the film into 4 chapters, each one named for a stage of an ancestral rite. For example, as I've kind of structured my video, Sinwi, Sinmyo, Umbok, and Soji. He didn't just make a film about a massacre, he made the film itself into a funeral, a memorial ceremony for the victims who never received one. Which brings us to our final part, Soji, the burning of the names. In the right, the names of the dead are written on paper and then burned, releasing them. So the question the film leaves us with is this: what does it mean to finally remember? For decades, the answer was that you don't. Under anti-communist governments, even saying the words "for three" out loud could mark you as a communist. It wasn't until 1999 that South Korea passed a special law to uncover the truth, and the 2003 president, Roh Moo-hyun, issued a formal state apology. The United States, which governed Jeju at the time, has called it a tragedy, but has never formally apologized. For me, what stays with this film is the black and white. You'd think stripping out the color would distance you from the horror, but it does the opposite. It makes the whole film feel like a memory being exhumed, kind of like a photograph that has somehow survived a fire. By refusing to show us the blood in red, Jiseul turns a massacre into something closer to a haunting. And here's my honest reaction. A lot of critics say that Jiseul gives outsiders too little to follow, and I kind of felt that too. Throughout the movie, I lost the thread and the plot at moments, but I'd argue that this disorientation is deliberate. In the film, we're kind of dropped into the terror with no briefing, exactly as the villagers were. The film refuses to make a massacre easy to watch. To conclude, Jisul, a film that turns remembering into a ritual. If this story moved you, the full story is yours to look into, and maybe just say their names. Thank you for watching my review.